Kenny Jameson here. Kind of weird white screen going on. Trying to record through YouTube. In the meantime, this message is messages. Yeah, there's going to be multiple messages here. The first one is to Mr. President Trump, SIR, 4-star General, Chief Law Enforcement Officer. That's the title. We're finding out that the 4-star General is iffy. Your 4-star generals that are under you were just at the Congress and the Senate and didn't seem to agree with the things that they've told you. They're trying to make more out of the situation globally than it is because they want funded. They want, that's their job, is to attack around the world, and that's just what they do, so they went against you. We didn't really like the idea that we sent 30,000 troops to where? To Colombia? We're having a battle between Colombia and Panama. We're trying to keep the people from Venezuela from coming through. Where? Wow. In the meantime, there's enough troops that you've sent to the Mexican border to put 3 troops every half mile. Put up chain link fence until your masterpiece wall gets built, and have guys guard it. And then once you get the wall built in 20 or 30 years from now, then those guys could be limited down to having a base every, 20, 30 miles. And they could get there by a drone and shoot them with a drone instead of actually having manpower on the border we need. In the meantime, if you want to pay for this, since you're the Chief Law Enforcement Officer, you could get a hold of the Justice Department and go after these congressmen that have embezzled hundreds of millions of dollars out of the stock market. The legislation was called the Stock Bill, where they weren't allowed to do this, but they've done it. We all know that when you take office, you have to submit a net worth evaluation. Now, when you exit office, no one checks that. They don't cross-check to see how many millions you've embezzled while you were a congressman. A very good example of this was Boehner, the Speaker of the House, got $5 million payoff for passing legislation, fast track, so it didn't have to go through committee, didn't have to go anywhere. Fast track and other congressmen got millions of dollars for this one department within the Congress, probably the ethics department if it's anything to do with anything. Collect all that money back. Nancy Pelosi, how much is her husband worth? How much? I just looked here on the internet, Google her husband's net worth. In 2004, they were worth $101 million. I had always heard 40 million. Maybe it's more like 400 million. So you could cripple her right now. You could go get her and have not the Federal Trade Commission, not the people that control the airwaves, the FAA, FDIC, that's the insurance for the banks. Who controls the Secret Service is supposed to control the banks. Their accountants oversee the banks. I guess the Secret Service could do it with the U.S. Marshals, but it's actually the Who controls that, Kathy?
I don't know.
Not the FDIC. I suppose they're the insurance companies. They should have authority, but that's the insurance on the banks. You know the department that take care of that. You just pick one. There's 437 federal departments that don't have anything to do with state law, and we all know that state law overrides federal law all day long. Abortion. States are passing their own abortion laws. It should be a federal law. Roe versus Wade was federal across the country. And then states override the federal government. They're allowed to aid and abet known criminals in this country. Because when you come in illegally, you're a criminal that day. They should not be, and you fix that, I think. You can't be released on your own recognizance because you have no credibility in the United States. I like some of the policies that you're trying to change. I mean, my God, dude, we love you. You are trying everything in your power, but this deep state, 70 to 80% of the people working were appointed during the Obama administration, or possibly the one before that. No, that was the puppet guy, Bushy, for 8 years. The one even before that, the blowjob guy, Clinton, or the puppet guy. The all those departments all embezzled so heavily that when his last month in office, they're like, "Oh my God, we're missing trillions of dollars. It's the insurance companies for mortgages." Who do you think own those banks? The deep state. Come on, it's all interlocked. These multi-millionaires. I think you made your money through casinos and renting office space to people. Now, you admitted you got some zoning changed. You paid some people off, but that just happens. And if they could take you down from being the president for that, the statute of limitations is up on all that. They made you do away with your one foundation that your son was donating to the children's hospital. That's sick. That's sick. We never took Hillary down for the donating to the Haitians. I guess they're having major problems down there, food shortages. They got warehouses full of rotted food now that good-hearted Americans sent down there. And Mexico's having... How do you put sanctions against starving people and take their oil from Venezuela and not give them back cargo ships full of rice, sort of corn? Let's just do a trade deal there with the new president that will trade you oil for food. Because, by God, we've got some soybean in warehouse in this country. They can squeeze that soybean and make them some soybean flakes instead of corn flakes. We got enough corn stored in this country to feed the world. Just grind it up and make corn flakes. Kenny Jameson here with, there's enough money from the Congress that's been embezzled from the stock market and the international banking and the commercial banking in this country. You need some accountants. Call up old Clinton there. Old Bill Clinton, he said he could do basic math. It's not any calculus or anything. It's all math. If you can keep track of the zeros. Because when you go from 100 million to a billion, that's a lot of zeros. Yeah, somebody moves the decimal point and someone just embezzled $100 million. Wow. Go after all the federal grant money, too, of the hundreds of billions of dollars. HUD is my pet peeve, but there's so many other agencies. FEMA that got hundreds of billions of dollars, and they don't spend it on helping people. They buy themselves nice RVs to go around, and Homeland Security buys big RVs to go ride around in and got an unlimited expense account. You did do good when you got in there by getting Air Force planes at a lot better price. You stopped some of the embezzlement, but you need some tough guys from the U.S. Marshals to get in here and clean this embezzlement up and get the money back and build the wall out of gold-plated steel if you want. You could get silver and put on it. How much money are you wanting to build a wall? It doesn't have a bathroom. You're not building a building. It's one side of the building. Barbed wire fence, chain link fence, and boots on the ground is the only answer. Sure, they could play with drones. They could have electronics to see if anybody crosses. All that. There's no other way than having boots on the ground. And you have the boots on the ground, and your 4-star generals that you're supposed to be over aren't using the boots on the ground properly. Sure, you need 100 guys grouped up when there's 1,000 coming. Sure, you need that. The rest of them, scatter out. 3 of you every half mile. Here's your allotment of food for the day. Take your tent here. Take a Hummer. Take a $100,000 Jeep and go. Here's a cell phone. Stay in contact. Call back to the base 3 or 5 times a day. If any of the guys are doing shenanigans, taking payoffs and letting coyotes come in like they do, Those guys got to go down. There's gonna be a honor system here that's gonna fail at the border. That's why we can't put 3 soldiers every border. The juvenile delinquents in the military, you can't trust them. You got to have lieutenants at each station. Oh, they're not gonna like it. It's gonna be boring. Hopefully. Signing off. Get the money back. Bye.